Okay, right. So we are going to cover, as I said already, startup costs into operating costs, into revenue projections, into sources of financing, into profitability analysis. So you can see that it's following I wonder if it's seen it. It's following um, the chronology, I guess you could say, because we beginning with the startup cost. You're looking at when you are beginning the business, what finances are going to be needed, and then after you're done startup already, you're going to be operating, right? So you look at the costs that keep the business running, and also in that you're looking at revenue projections, which is basically trying to predict how much money you're going to make, and then sources of financing is how you're going to get that money, and then profitability analysis is looking at how you're going to, how you're going to make money off of the money that you've already invested. Normal thing, if you all want to take off your mics and interject at any point in time, please don't be shy, right? So the first thing, startup costs. Startup costs are divided into fixed assets and operating capital. Write that down, please. And I'll explain what they are. So fixed assets is also referred to as, well, not necessarily interchangeably, but they are more or less the same term, referring to, you're writing, right? I'm expecting that you are. So, you're right, fixed assets or capital expenditure, which would be money that you spend on things that last for more than a year. So things that you're going to be using on the long term, things that you're going to be using for a long time, while revenue expenditure is money that's spent on day-to-day operations. So let's see if I could highlight. Everybody with me? I'm hoping yes. So fixed assets or capital expenditure will usually be larger sums of money because, as I was saying, it's things that you're really investing in that you're going to be using for a long time. And then operating capital, as I said, will be day-to-day things. So those are smaller sums of money, and we're going to go into some examples of them in a little while. I'm giving you all time to write. So just give me a thumbs up or take off your mic when you're finished taking this little diagram here. And we'll talk about why this particular part is called capital building. Another silly thing about this syllabus, they have capital building and equipment as two separate points under startup costs when equipment comes under capital building. So again, things repeating or being said in the same way in different places. You'll finish writing that?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
So we understand that fixed assets are things that, well, we'll go into it in the next slide as well. Fixed assets or capital expenditure being things that last more than a year, and revenue expenditure being things that are just for day-to-day operations. So when we're talking about startup costs, of course, we are thinking about, envisioning if we were to start a business and we're going to say, all right, we are going to go into this enterprise. We are going to sell. Let me see what's the example for today, boy. We're going to sell handmade head wraps. That is the business. We're selling handmade head wraps. right? That's the example we're using for today. And we're thinking, all right, it's a startup business because we have never made handmade head wraps before. So we're thinking about the costs that we're going to have to incur at the beginning of this business in order to get it off the ground. And we're thinking about the fixed assets, which would be things like perhaps a sewing machine that you will, because you're going to be using the sewing machine constantly. And then the operating capital might be things like gas that you need to deliver head wraps from one place to the next. Anyway, we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Let me know if you're confused or not with me. So when we're talking about assets, an asset is an item of value that is owned by a company or an individual. I say individual because sometimes businesses are not necessarily run from a, I mean, it's kind of rare and not very smart, but businesses are run from an individual. So in a lot of arts contexts, one of the assets will be intellectual property. So you're thinking of the main word there is value, something that is worth something. Again, please don't take down the notes exactly from the slide, but take what you understand from it, write it in your own words, draw arrows, use colors, connect the dots, add in your own examples and things like that. So anything that a business owns that is worth something is an asset. So in some cases, it might be, what's the word? Real estate or buildings. So if an intellectual property, so think about it. If you have, in the context of music, for example, if you have a song that you have produced, no, a song that you've written, then that is your intellectual property. You will have copyright. Serena Duku, 2020, that's going to be your intellectual property, and you're going to go by the copyright people and register it and put your name on it so that anytime anybody takes that song, you can go to the court and sue them for it. So that is going to be an asset to your business. If your business is something that involves music, then your song is going to be one of your assets. That's going to be your intellectual property because it's worth something. Because you can sell that. If it reaches the top of the Billboard charts, then you can sell that song to somebody. You can sell your masters to somebody and make money off of it. In the same way that if you have a brick and mortar business, which we're going to discuss the meaning of that in a little while, then one of your assets will be your land because you can sell that. It's worth money. You can say this land is worth so by so, in the same way that you can say this song is worth 3,000 views, which equates to how much ever US dollars and, going on. I hope you'll have that down. So then capital is a type of asset, but capital refers specifically to financial assets. So you're going to have some assets that are financial and non-financial, but capital specifically is always a financial asset, right? So in this case, then cash is most definitely going to be counting as capital. Real estate is a financial asset, but you're also going to have assets that you cannot exchange, that don't really count as money or collateral, and those would just be general assets. But when we talk about capital, we're referring specifically to finances. So in this case, when we're talking about startup costs and we are looking at capital building, we're looking at how we're going to get finances, how we're going to build our financial base to start off a business. And every business requires some kind of startup capital. Unless you selling not anything, and that's why people say that you need to have money to make money. Anything that you are selling, once you're starting a business, you're going to need some type of capital. If you're starting a lemonade stand, you're going to need, unless you have a lemon farm behind your house and you have, it's just impossible because you need the capital to buy containers to put the lemonade in. Even if you have a table, if you have a lemon farm, if you have jugs, everything, if you have sugar, if you have a cane farm in the back of your house, so that you don't have to buy any raw materials, you still need the capital to get the cups to put the lemonade in, right? You still need the capital to get a safety deposit box to put your cash in. You still need the capital to pay for passage to go out the road and deposit your lemonade stand money in the bank, right? So all businesses require some kind of startup capital. Yes, everybody with me so far?
Yes, Miss.
Good. Right. So looking at capital building, we're looking at how we're going to get the finances that will form the bedrock, that will form the foundation for a business, right? Let me know if I am moving too fast or if there's anything that you want me to repeat. Well, you know how my brain does work. If you ask me to repeat something, chances are I'm not going to remember what I said. So, in capital building, we spoke about fixed assets very briefly just now. So fixed assets, as I said already, are things that you need for your business over the long term. So for example, if you're starting a brick and mortar, take down this term as well. Brick and mortar refers to a business that operates out of a physical building. So now outside from brick and mortar, somebody want to give me an example of where a business might operate from? Anybody? If you have a business that
Miss Hi, the explanation for brick and mortar kind of fly over my head, so you can repeat it for me, please.
So brick and mortar, you're not seeing it at the bottom here? It's a business that operates out of a physical building. So they have a face-to-face interaction with their customers in that if you need to, whatever you need to purchase from them, you could come to them physically in store and get it off of a shelf, right? So brick and mortar literally meaning building, because that's what you're using to erect a building, right? Brick and mortar. So right, places that exist in a physical location. We're not really looking at this diagram just yet, but I'm going to talk about it in a second. So anybody want to give me an example, Joshona, since you're here already? Where else might a business operate other than being a brick and mortar establishment? Where else or how else? And we saw that with the pandemic, trademark, a lot of businesses had to kind of operate during that time of lockdown. A lot of businesses had to kind of step out of their brick and mortar and find other ways to operate because money has to make, right? So they had to find other ways to, if people can't meet you in person, if people cannot come and stand up and cough over your counter, how else are you going to operate? Is Elisa here? I think. Yeah, she is. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Mr. My laptop was sticking, but I'm listening. Like, I'm clicking on mute and it's taking like a whole minute to unmute, but I hear.
Give us an example of how else a business might operate now, other than brick and mortar. How else or where else, I should say.
Well, I don't know if this would count, but in like, especially in these times, businesses could be like solely online.
Very good.
And and depend on like delivery instead of customers having to go to a building and pick it up.
Correct. Good. So you have businesses that are solely online. Um, and that one is quite interesting because it's very common now in Instagram entrepreneurship. So you have these Instagram stores where you cannot go on the shelf and decide you want to buy this, that, the other. You have to direct message them and they'll deliver it to you or organize a pickup or whatever the case may be. So businesses will either operate brick and mortar, they might operate online, especially in these times, or they might operate so there are some businesses that that are mobile, so they'll move from different markets. So you all know they have South Market and Santa Cruz Green Market. I love a market. Everything I buy from a market. But they have a lot of businesses that they move around with their stuff. Think about the Lolly Man. I mean, the Lolly Man is operating out of Flavor, right? Or whatever other horrible ice cream brand. Or they have Lolly Man and thing. Where are they living? For a while, I didn't have a Lolly Man, but I see one every now and again. Well, you have a Lolly Man in your...
No,
No.
sorry.
Well, they don't have a Lolly Man, but all they know what I'm talking about, right? We just sit down and
Yeah.
talk and... Okay.
Yeah.
I just think there's a gem from the past that very rare right now.
Well, Serena, you living on a main road, so ain't no Lolly Man coming right down to get bounced down by you. But my thing about the Lolly Man, let's tell you why the Lolly Man isn't around anymore. Because the setup, it not feasible. Because from the time you hear the Lolly Man bell coming down the road, you had to go and look for cash to go and give the Lolly Man. You had to put on a decent top that didn't have no hole in it, and if you didn't have on pants, you had to put on pants. And by that time, the Lolly Man saw riding fast and studying to get through the whole neighborhood in an hour. He done gone already. So he lost that sale. And then sometimes, depending on where you live in, they're not going to pass it back. So the Lolly Man could never make as much profit as the Lolly Man really wants to make. The ice cream truck is a different story because, you know, the ice cream truck will drive a little slow and it's have the little song and thing. But the way they set up the Lolly Man, it don't make sense. It couldn't, you know, it's a good concept and it's like something that people have nostalgia about. You know, I remember running down Lolly Man and think that's part of your childhood, but the speed the Lolly Man is big when you can't expect to get to no setup.
Miss Plus Flavor, right? They don't make the milkies and the little other things. They don't make them again. That's why I think the majority of them not working again.
This is our next thing because
Isn't Flavor gone?
Yeah, they were, but they came back.
They were, but they came back, yeah.
They kind of came back because it had a time, I don't know, they get bored or something in being retired. So they started back making a few things in small batches. And then I realized they kind of rebrand as TC Creamery or whatever it is. So now they kind of came back from their hiatus. But first of all, I need to let all you know, Flavor Right is not real ice cream. I don't know what is that they just be putting inside them bowl and thing, but that don't taste right. That just tastes like, it don't even taste like condensed milk. It's not right. So I was quite glad when Flavor Right shut down, except from Hola Cola and Milky and things like that. But they have a resurgence of Lolly Men now. And why don't have Lolly Women? That's our next question. Why is the Lolly Man a gendered occupation? Man, anyway, let me move on.
Miss, because them have Lolly Man and we are male woman.
But it have male men too.
I never see a male man before.
You never see
male woman.
I have a male man.
I have a mailman too.
I have a male man.
No, that's all your side thing.
This is what I'm talking about. I find
Yes, but like these days, I find you see like less Lolly Man because more people have like the ice cream trucks now. Like we used to have a Lolly Man, but now I have this woman who's come with her ice cream truck instead. I can't remember the name, Squeebies or something.
I don't know.
And huh?
No, I'm listening.
Yeah, like I find these days it's like less lolly man and more people leaning towards like ice cream trucks now.
It had
I don't know.
a point in time, it had no lolly man whatsoever. But then I started to see them coming back on the beach and stuff like that. It had an ice cream truck that is, I only hear it, but it doesn't come down by me. I hear the noise every Saturday morning. I don't think I hear it anymore. But I feel that's a good business to have, an ice cream truck. Anyway, right. So back to capital building and fixed assets. Oh, so the call is going to end in less than a minute. You all know what to do. Just come back one time. We back at it, right? So assets, fixed assets, things that you're using over a long time. So if you have a brick and mortar store, it would be things like shelves, tables, your cash register, right? If you're a graphic designer, your fixed asset might be something like a printer, or it might be a type of software that you're going to be using to design your things. You're going to be using it on a daily basis, but you're going to be using it for a long time. And another thing that we're talking about under fixed assets is things like deposits in things. I'm going to give you a small little lesson in adulting when we're talking about deposits. But I don't want to talk and then the class cut off. So, let's look at the diagram for a little second here. Buildings, of course, you're going to be using buildings for a long time, more than a year. I already know what I mean. Equipment, of course, as I was talking about, if you're a graphic designer or if you're printing t-shirts, you're going to need a printer that you're using for a long time. So we're looking at things that costing plenty money here. Furniture and fixtures, of course, lights. You must have lights in your place. You must have chairs to sit down on, and you're not going to rent a chair and sit down on it for 2 days. You're going to be using it for a long time. Vehicles, same thing. You're not going to be using a car for a week and then that's it. You're going to get a van to deliver your head wraps. You're going to get a van for the ice cream truck. You got to get a van, right? That's going to be a fixed asset. And then real estate land, same along the same line. We're back. So when we're talking about deposits, which will be, anyway, we'll talk about that in the next slide. By the way, you're gonna see some, I guess, strange images in this PowerPoint because I really couldn't figure out how to make it interesting, and I'll just run out of things to like how much picture and money I could put, So it just got a little bit random, coming on to the end. So right, so still looking at capital building. Any ideas? If we are starting our head wrap business, we're selling handmade head wraps. How are we going to get the money, the capital? Remember, capital being a financial asset, which means money or something that's worth money. How are we going to get the capital to start this business? Any ideas of where we might get the money from? Please, let's use legal examples. Anybody, jump in and tell me, we're starting up this business, where are we going to get our capital from? How are we going to build this capital to start our handmade head wrap business?
Loans?
Loans, good. You might take a loan. You might write your family. You all did business subjects in...
Yes, ma'am.
I do an entree at the moment.
Okay.
I just do an entree and accounting.
Oh, smart. Anybody did MOB for Form 5? Or, yeah, Form 5 or... Yeah, that'd be Form 5.
Miss in POB?
Yeah, that.
Yes,
Yeah.
miss.
Yes, miss.
Elisa, you did POB?
Yeah, but outside.
Oh, okay, understand. So yeah, you might ask, you have a rich auntie or an auntie or uncle who is retired and they don't have any children and they don't have anything to spend their money on. So you might ask them for a little, or you might ask for a little donation. You might go to the bank and take a loan. Any other way that we might get capital to start up a business?
Miss, could you raise funds for profit to start
Right.
your business?
Yes, you could raise funds Tell me some ways you might raise funds now for our head wrap business or handmade head wraps. Where might we use, what means might we use to raise funds for our investment?
We could use food.
Say again?
You could use food.
School?
You could have like a curry. Food. You
Food,
could have
food.
like a curry cube or like a barbecue or something so.
Good. You could have a barbecue. Now the thing about barbecue and curry is that you gotta have money to do them things. You gotta have money to buy the chicken, and you gotta have people who are willing to work for free and things like that. But yeah, all of that is fundraising. Investors, that's a big one. You get somebody to give you money. That's a great way to live your life. You get somebody to give you money. So one of the first ones would be self-financing, which is where you're taking your own funds or your own resources. So for instance, you know what? A change in the example. We're not making handmade head wraps. We're making masks, handmade masks, right? And we'll figure out why our masks should sell other than other people, better than other people's masks. So for instance, if I'm a seamstress and I have I have a family member who's a seamstress and I have a lot of spare fabric from things that that were just, that I made before, and pieces of fabric that I can't really use to make anything unless I'm making a quilt or something like that. Then I'm going to invest those resources into the business in the same way that if I have money, if I have my savings, all right, now I might just use that and say, okay, I have $100,000 in savings. I'm going to use that and start up my business. Or maybe I won the lotto. Hey, that's one thing. Now let me tell you this too. If you ever come across a lot of money, I don't know if you all watch Greenleaf, but I was watching Greenleaf last night.
Oh yes.
What them a show. And Grace basically found out that her father is not her father. And the man who was her actual father left $3 million for her. Now, when you come across money that is not really yours, make sure that your money is making money for you. So whether it's that you put down some apartments so that you're always going to get rent from it, don't go and buy a car that depreciates in every year. I mean, yeah, you can buy a car, but don't make that your main investment that you're going to take with your money, unless you're going to lease the car or put the car for rent so that the car bring back money to you. Anyway, I'm going off topic. As we said very rightly, getting a loan. Awards and grants. So this one is quite, not necessarily specific to, but it's kind of common. Not in Trinidad, unfortunately, but kind of on a global scale when you're talking about creative enterprises, where they will give awards for ideas or a grant. So they might have an award for, let's say they have a Commonwealth Writers Award, and the person who wins that award will get funding to publish their book, for instance. Or you might have a grant, and in places like England, they have very specific grants. So they will have grants. So different institutions, they might have a grant for a business or a dance school that does Indian dance specifically. So they will have an Indian dance grant where they're going to of course, you're going to have to apply for it, and they will give $1 million to an upcoming school that does Indian dance, or it will have a grant for women in science and technology, or it might have a grant for saxophonists in music and going on, right? Then this is a very common one these days where everybody have a GoFundMe for something, which is crowdfunding. Well, raising funds is what we know it as, but crowdfunding is, I guess, the new term, and a lot of people do it online. I'm not exactly sure how it works with GoFundMe and those kind of websites. But I also find it kind of ridiculous because I mean, of course, everybody want to help, you know. But how much raffle sheet you go fill out? How much crowd I go fund? How much, you know? Everybody want to go to school. Everybody want to, I remember a time, one of my friends um, was living in England at the time, and she wanted to go see Bruno Mars live in concert. And she was talking about how she was having a hard year and and whatever. So she started a GoFundMe for people to give her money to go see Bruno Mars in concert. I say, you must be mad. I must take my, for what? For you to go and see Bruno Mars in concert. I mean, oh, and how she loved Bruno Mars so much and his music take her through hard times and da, da, da. But come on, please, let's be reasonable. Not every
But did it work?
no, I don't think she got any funding whatsoever. I was getting secondhand embarrassment for her. I say you must be mad. Because the thing about it is on GoFundMe, a lot of people are wanting funding for funeral expenses and chemotherapy and, you know, serious things. So why I must take my good money and give you money to go and see Bruno Mars? Are you out of your mind? That would get me real upset. Right. Raising funds, crowdfunding. And as we said, you could also do this through cake sale. You might do a raffle. You might do a bingo, I suppose. All the different ways that we raise funds. And then getting investors. Of course, that's where somebody pledges and they will agree to give you a certain amount of money. And I guess the people who are in crowdfunding, investors of some sort. There's also, I'm going to write something down here that I want to show you all. Interesting ways to do crowdfunding. Right. And then using credit, which is not a smart idea at all. So that means to say basically credit is money that you don't have that you use. So if you have a credit card, it's not really your money. It really is not your money because you can't spend more than you have at a particular point in time. That's why you have a credit card. So if you decide to start a business using credit, in this particular instance, if you're talking about using a credit card, then that's very risky because if your business busts, remember you use money that you don't actually have. So where you're going to find the money to pay back the credit. But it is, I don't know, a way that you can build your capital. You can use a credit card if we make in mass. If you use a credit card to go and buy a sewing machine online or to buy fabric or whatever. And then when you start to make money, but only when you start to make money, you'll be able to pay back the credit. But that's not necessarily a smart way to go. And then a good old asking friends and family. I hope you all are taking notes.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So you can ask people who like you to contribute to your dreams, right? And then there's something also called venture capital, which we're going to look at as well in a moment. Right. So I just want to finish off one. We're just gonna finish off startup costs to end off this class today with the last one that's in the syllabus. Sorry, did I move from that slide too quickly? Everybody have all of that down? Everybody understand?
Yes, miss.
Great. If anybody has any questions or points of clarification, if you want me to repeat anything, that's why I'm recording the class, right? So you have to go back and listen to it because I don't remember the things that I said.
Miss, with the one way you say asking friends or family, and that might be a problem because it may have certain friends or family members who want you to repay them back.
Yes. So that is a very valid point. We're going to look at the different types of financing. It depends. So you will strike up an agreement with your friends and family really like you, they'll just give you the money, just free sheet. And you might, and remember, so Jaron was talking about, he has a kind of barter system with people, which is where not everything he will pay for and not everything his friends or clients will pay for. They have a kind of agreement. So he says, you know, I have this project that I have going on, but we don't have a budget to pay the staff. But, you know, I have your back so that anytime, you know, you have an event coming up later, I'll maybe, you know, work for a discounted price or something like that. So you will have your agreement that you have with your friends and family. Now, the reason why we separate friends and family from investors is that friends and family are more likely to, not necessarily, but more likely to give you money without you having to repay. But if you have a mass business and you know your auntie give you $500 to get your stickers, you know, that you're going to label your mask, then you might give your auntie a free mask or 10, you know, coming down the line as a courtesy. But why we separate the two of them is that friends and family they're more likely. Great. Yeah. Barter is the exchange of goods and services for other goods and services rather than exchange of money for money. Money for services, right? But that is what we'll talk about as well, the different types of financing and the agreements that you'll have with people based off of the what they expect in return for their money. For some people, they'll expect nothing, but for some people, they say, I give you something, I ought to get something in return, right? Or it might be an unspoken thing, you know, where they say, imagine I give Elisa $20 when she was starting up that strip business, and she never even give me back anything. She never even bring a mask and things like that, right? But the final set of startup costs that we're looking at are legal fees. And once you are doing a business in a legal way, as in a legitimate business, you're going to have some legal fees. The first legal fee will be registering the business. So, business registry in Trinidad, there are two ways that you could do it. You either go and register the business for yourself, you either go and stand up in the business registry office, and you might have to go a few times, and it does cost money to register a business. Or you can pay a firm or a person. There are some people who kind of offer service then, where they register your business for you. So when you register in a business in Trinidad, the main, I guess, activity, the kind of point of it is ensuring that you have the rights to the name of the business. So when you go to register a business, you'll pay, I'm not sure how much it is, but I don't think it's that much. It's definitely not more than.
Miss, you just do
Miss, I think it's
$25 to check the name, and then to
yeah.
register the name or to register the company itself. It does vary according to if it is a sole trader or if
Right.
you like have partners in it.
Right. So it depends on the type of business. That's where the difference in the price is going to come from. But the thing about checking the name is that sometimes you have to go back. You have to do it several times. For those who have never registered a business before, the main thing is checking the name and making sure that that nobody else has the same name or a very similar name. So I think is that you could check 3 names at a time. So if you want to name your business Mask Up, why can't I pronounce that word? Let's say Mask Up. You're going to check Mask Up in 3 different kind of variations, 3 different spellings. And if they say, well, now I have a business called Mask Up, and that's too similar or something like that. And those 3 choices that you come with, if all 3 of them are, unsuitable, then you have to pay to check the names again. So it's really about making sure that no 2 people have the same business on internet. But of course it happens. It happens a lot. Everybody have a spa named Jador Beauty, because for whatever reason people think that naming things in French makes it fancy. But your first legal fee will be registering the business. So whether that's that you do it yourself or you pay somebody to go and do it for you. Then when you are starting a business, one of the first things you need to do is get yourself a lawyer, especially if you're dealing with intellectual property, if you're dealing with creative stuff. Now, a very good way to do this. This is what you see all them friends, all little deeping with in school. Whoever studying law, yeah, you keep friends with them. Keep friends with them. They're probably not going to give you a discount, but you always have a very good friend who's a lawyer. So for instance, one of the companies that I work with, Tarry Comedy, who does videos. One of our actors is a lawyer. So we don't have to pay lawyer fees. He does all of our contracts for us because he's on the team. That is always a good, always have a lawyer on your team. But if you're real smart, have a lawyer who you don't have to pay for, a lawyer brethren. Get yourself a lawyer brethren or sister. So you're going to have to pay the lawyer to come up with your contracts. That's going to be the contracts that you have for your workers. So where you set the hours for the week, everything has a contract and a clause behind it, and you have to pay a lawyer to write that up in that kind of language that nobody does understand but lawyers. You have to pay somebody to draft all of those things for you to make sure that everything you want to ensure that that your workers know that when they come and work for you, if they don't give 2 weeks notice, they're not liable for any, they're not eligible, for any benefits. You have to get a lawyer to write that in a contract, right? All of the agreements, everything, all the paperwork, you have to pay a lawyer to do that. Then copyright protection, of course. This is another thing that somewhat involves lawyers, but then also copyright organizations. So being able to protect your intellectual property, protect your ideas, that's another thing that you have to pay for. That's kind of crazy. Eh? Imagine you come up with an idea and you have to pay money to make sure that nobody could take your idea. So even things like ambush marketing, which we'll talk about at some point in time later. And then marketing also has some legal fees coming up with it. So for example, if you have a production company and you're going to put on a play, if you're going to put on The Lion King, you have to have the money to pay Disney to have the rights to put on The Lion King. Now, some years ago...
Sorry, miss, my Wi-Fi dropped.
Oh, dear. Where you here from? I know I'm carrying you all over time.
Lawyer fees, where you always must have a lawyer on your team, and something about contracts.
Right.
So there was The Lion King.
Yes. So we're talking about marketing. Well, I mean, yeah, this is marketing in a way. So some years ago in Trinidad, there was a very bright production company, I won't call any names, who thought that they could put on Disney's The Lion King without paying Disney for their copyright fees. I'm sure you all could imagine what happened there. Now they rehearse something, they get a cast, they put up their posters, they book the venue, everything. And they never got to put on The Lion King, because it's one thing about Disney, they have their copyright people all over the world. So once you try to put on a Disney production anywhere in the world, as in a Disney production in its raw form, they are going to know. So they sent their copyright people and served them a lawyer letter and said, if you all put on this show, you are going to have to pay back a cool few million US dollars in lawsuits from Disney. So that's just everything that you do when it comes to musical theater specifically, you have to have the rights to put it on, and those things are quite expensive usually. So any company that you see putting on the sound, the music, they put on the Phantom of the Opera, any of those, even when Presentation Mixed Choir does, they have to pay a whole lot of money to make sure they have the rights. So in copyright protection, you're talking about protecting your intellectual property, but then in the legal rights down here, we're looking at the rights to use other people's intellectual property, and then branding rights. So different companies will have different structures in place and requirements for how you must brand their work once you're using it. And then insurance coverage is another legal fee. You need to have insurance to make sure that when you're making your masks, if you have workers and one of your workers' finger run under the needle in the sewing machine, you don't have to take out of your pocket, or they don't have to take out of their pocket to go and get a finger reattached, right? You have insurance to cover that, to cover certain things that happen on your compound, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there are also permits and licenses that you're going to need for specific things. So, for instance, cut license. If you really pay attention, if you go into stores, theater places like Sapa, radio stations, they're all going to have a sticker up on the door with a cut license, which is basically a permit that they pay every year to be able to play music. And that's even to play the radio. So if you have a store where you're playing the radio live over the speaker in your store, you have to get a cut license to make sure that supposedly the artists are going to get the returns from the money. But we know how things is go with cut. But that's just another example of a permit or a license that you have. If you have a bar, you have to have a bar license and renew it every few years or whenever, every year or whatever it is. But to operate legally, for instance, you need a food badge if you're making food, you need a food license, that kind of thing. So that will also come under the legal fees that you're thinking about in starting up a business. I am now 5 minutes over, but that's the end of that for today. I'm leaving this here for 2